Welcome to The Explainer. We're about to explore something pretty fundamental. Why are most companies so good at talking, but just awful at listening? And yeah, that's putting them in some serious danger. We're going to dive into a totally new way of thinking that helps businesses do more than just survive in this chaotic world. It helps them actually win.
All right, let's kick this off with a number. 80%. Just think about that for a second. That's how much of a typical company's communication is just them talking, broadcasting their message out into the void. It leaves what, 20%? Not a lot of room left for what might be the most important part. Listening.
So this massive imbalance, well, it leads to something experts are calling the crisis of organizational listening. It's like a person who only talks and never listens. They become totally deaf to what's really going on around them, what customers are saying, what the market is doing. And that makes them incredibly vulnerable.
And that vulnerability gets even worse because, let's face it, we are living in an era of no normal. The world is just constantly changing. It's unpredictable. Those old-school 5-year business plans, the dusty playbooks, they're basically useless now. They just can't keep up.
So, that brings us to the million-dollar question, right? In a world where there is no normal, how does a company stop just, putting out fires all the time and actually start to see what's coming? How do they adapt and even thrive?
Well, the answer is a pretty big one. It's a total shift in thinking. It's about becoming a sentient organization.
Now hold on. Before your mind goes to sci-fi movies and conscious robots, that's not what we're talking about here. Organizational sentience is all about a company acting like a living thing. It's about developing this hyper-awareness to sense what's happening in its environment, understand it, and react to it instantly, in real time.
And this chart, it lays out the difference perfectly. Look at the left side. That's your traditional company. Slow, always looking in the rearview mirror, different departments not talking to each other. Now look at the right. That's the sentient model. It's happening now. It's real time. It's all connected. Strategy isn't a 5-year plan anymore. It's a 12-month cycle. Decisions aren't slow. They're fast and smart.
Okay, that all sounds great in theory, but how does a huge company, a giant, complex organization actually build these digital senses? How do you learn to listen when there's so much noise?
Well, this is where the tech really shines. Meet Sūcana-Dṛṣṭi. It's an AI tool built to be exactly that, a sensory organ for a business. And the name is just perfect. It comes from Sanskrit and Marathi, and it means piercing sight. I love that. The ability to cut right through the noise.
So how does it work? It's actually a pretty simple but super powerful 3-step process. First, it just pulls in tons of real-time news from everywhere. Then the AI gets to work, analyzing everything, figuring out the mood, the sentiment, and spotting the big topics. And finally, it boils all that down into simple, clear reports that a leader can actually use to make a decision.
Okay, theory's one thing, but let's see this thing in action. We're going to dive into a real-world case study with the tech giant TCS, Tata Consultancy Services. And we're looking at a really critical moment for them back in early 2026. So the first thing the tool does is take the temperature of all the news about TCS. And you can see it right here on this chart. Yeah, there's a little bit of negative buzz. That was tied to this general AI scare happening in the market. But look at this. The really important part is the huge amount of neutral and positive news.
Now, let's jump over to the timeline. This is where it gets interesting. See how for the first half of the month, things are pretty quiet, a mention here or a mention there. But then, boom! Look at that spike in mid-February. That cluster of activity is a massive signal that a huge story is breaking right at that moment.
In this word cloud, it's like the headline. It tells us exactly what was going on. See the biggest words? Tata, OpenAI, AMD, partnership. The tool didn't miss a beat. It figured out the real story was about these huge strategic partnerships.
So think about what just happened. The platform saw the whole story unfold in real time. It started with the fear, right? This idea that AI was a threat. But it immediately uncovered the reality that TCS was actually making this incredibly smart strategic move to lead the charge into the new AI world. Okay, that's a really cool specific example, but let's zoom out. Why does this matter for every company, no matter what they do? What's the big takeaway here?
Well, the advantages are just huge. Being sentient lets you spot problems before they blow up into full-blown crises. It lets you move your resources where they're actually needed. You can see market trends coming. And maybe most importantly, it takes all that data crunching work off the plates of your leaders so they can actually, lead and think about the big picture.
And look, this isn't just some nice idea. The numbers are there.
Research from McKinsey found that companies using this kind of real-time analysis can make decisions up to 30% faster. 30%! In today's world, that's an absolutely massive advantage.
But you know, this ability to listen, it's about more than just profits. It's not just about beating the competition. It's actually about something much deeper.
The truly great sentient organizations, they use this for what you could call deep listening. They start tuning into the really big conversations happening in society, picking up on social and environmental signals. This helps them navigate huge challenges like climate change or social justice. And when they do that, they build real, lasting trust.
And that really leaves us with a final, powerful thought. In this crazy, fast-moving world we live in, the future isn't going to belong to the companies that shout the loudest. It's going to belong to the ones that listen the best. Thanks for joining us.